Philip, welcome back to the show.
Nice to be here, Todd. How you doing?
I'm good. For those who don't know you, you're a Florida real estate broker. You own a school in Florida and you're licensed in several states. And today we're talking about the Florida housing market. And the reason, Phil, that I keep tabs on the Florida housing market is because Florida experienced some of the highest home price appreciation in the country during what I call the pandemic boom from 2020 to like 2021, the end of 21, beginning of 22. And that was partly due to the massive amount of domestic migration over that same time period. And also Florida, it led the housing crash of 2008. So this is why everyone listening, no matter where you live, should really be paying attention what's happening to your Sunshine State. So Phil, I want to, before we kind of kick it off here, I want to start us by pulling up this article that I saw on the 18th and of June. I think it was, June 18th. And it's from newsweek.com. It says most Florida housing markets are in trouble. Most markets in Florida are in trouble as housing inventory continues surging and sales remain low. Of the 8 Florida markets covered by the real estate intelligence platform, 6, including Orlando, Tampa, Cape Coral, Lakeland, North Point, and Deltona, I don't know if I said it right, but can be considered bearish, meaning that they are facing a significant decline in property values. Only 2, Miami and Jacksonville, could be considered bullish. And it goes on to say that the same dynamics are unfolding across the country, where sellers currently outnumber buyers by nearly 500,000, according to a recent Redfin report. But things in Florida appear to have moved to the next step, where a shift in the market in favor of buyers is bringing home prices down. And this in part because Florida has built the most new homes in the entire country over the past few years as developers tried to keep up with the growing demand during the pandemic. But the flow of people to the state has slowed down since the end of the pandemic and the issuing of return to work orders. That, together with the rise of home prices, mortgage rates, and dramatically diminished affordability in the state. Philip, tell us what is going on in Florida.
Well, I'll tell you, there's a lot to unpack there.
Hey guys, I hope you're enjoying the show so far. I just wanted to take a brief minute and share some exciting news. I have just released my new Todd Simple home buying course. This course is designed for anyone wanting to know how to buy a home. It's 14 lessons, includes worksheets and resource guides. It's designed to take you through the entire home buying process from start to finish. You'll learn how to represent yourself should you want to avoid paying real estate commissions, the best ways to shop for a home, how to avoid costly mistakes, what to look for when touring a home, negotiation tactics, and so much more. If you've followed me here on YouTube, you know that I am very transparent in my videos. In this home buying course, I hold nothing back. In fact, I would go to say that no one has uncovered the home buying process like I have. I'd even recommend this course to most real estate agents, as they will probably learn more about the home buying process than any other training that they've received. I've even made a way for you to gift this course to your family and friends. Visit saxrealty.education. The link is also pinned in the comments below. And for a limited time, I'm offering a 10% discount on Todd Simple home buying course. Just enter the coupon code Todd when checking out. Now back to the show. Tell us what is going on in Florida.
Well, I'll tell you, there's a lot to unpack there. But the first thing I'd like to say is it's nice to see that the media is starting to come to reality. We've been talking about this for 2 years. It started in pockets, right? Southwest Florida, certain areas, Cape Coral areas. Outside of Tampa, inventory started growing, buyers started stopping, and we were reporting on that. We're showing that numbers don't lie. We went over different figures, and it started there, started to warn people. Nobody took their warnings. Like, people kept going. And now it spread, right? So that's where we're at. And like you said in your first part of our conversation here, is the migration. The migration coming into Florida has never been lower in history of recording than now. It's about 75% down from its high in 2020, 2021. but people have stopped moving to Florida. A lot of people are leaving Florida. 95% of my business is listings. People moving to Tennessee, people moving to South Carolina, people moving back to the cities where they came from because they are being called back to work. I've sold a few houses in the last couple of months in those situations. They have no choice, and a lot of these people are taking a beating because they bought these houses at the top of the market and they're losing, 40, 50 grand to leave, but they have no choice. Some of them want to turn them into rentals, but then, they're long distance rentals and they're having issues with, what happens if something goes wrong. Rent prices are coming down for the first time ever. So, you know, the first thing buyers are looking at, what's the cost of living, right? What's the cost to live here now? Florida used to be very affordable. You can buy a house, reasonable insurance, reasonable taxes, HOAs are reasonable. Everything is flipped. Insurance industry is a mess. They're trying to fix it. They just passed that new law where they started to eliminate some of the frivolous lawsuits, and about 70% of the lawsuits are getting thrown out. So you had about 30 companies come back into the state, which hasn't been publicized so much, but in the last year and a half, and it's starting to restructure itself, but it's not fast enough. It's not declining fast enough. I mean, you had insurance prices go up 300%, and now, it's coming down maybe 15, 20, 30% with the competition coming back, but it's nowhere near where it should be. You're talking a $350,000 house, 7 to 9,000 a year on insurance. I mean, it's crazy, man. And then you have your, taxes. They're talking about getting rid of taxes or, but it's all politics, man. It's neither here nor there. They're still going to collect it. If they don't collect it on the house, they're going to raise your sales tax to 10%. So they're still taking the money. They're just going to diversify it through, other means. But I got to tell you, man, the real estate market has softened. The buyers who are buying are serious, though. The people who are buying because they have to. I have a few, like I said, 95% is selling, but I have 3-4 buyers I'm working with that are serious, ready to go, ready to pull the trigger. We just got a contract accepted yesterday for one of them. It was a house that we put an offer on. We were outbid. We did an escalation clause. We were outbid. And then that deal fell apart. They called us back and we were able to get it for less than we actually offered. So when that happens, you really know things are going on in the market.
How long had that house been on the market?
That house been on the market probably good 4 months. Good 4 months.
When you see a house that's been on the market for 4 months, what is the possibility that seller had turned down an offer in that 4 months and that they were probably regretful that they had?
I'd say it's probably 50-50. I mean, I have listings on the market and I have nothing, man. I have a couple down in Orlando outside of Disney. I had the first showing on it now that I had in like 8 weeks, and it's priced. It's the most reasonable priced unit.
Wow,
for the market.
8 weeks before your first showing.
I had a couple showings when I first listed it, and then it's been about 8 weeks until this showing now, which is coming Sunday.
That's what's happening here. I mean, we'll see a listing will hit the market, and what I try and tell the agents is, look, put it in coming soon, because it's going to get aggregated to search sites like Zillow in a coming soon status. One of the worst things that a listing agent can do for their seller, in my opinion, in this market, is just go live. If they're not using the coming soon option, because the coming soon option is going to tell you a lot. It's going to show you on sites like Zillow, it's going to show you how many views the property's had and how many saves it has.
How many saves.
And if you're listing a property and coming soon at a certain price, $500,000, for example, and then all of a sudden you look at Zillow 3 or 4 days into coming soon since it was published, and it has 2 saves, you're in trouble.
Yep.
You're going to launch that property live, and the days on market is just going to eat your seller alive. And then
it's a great way to test it. You're right.
It's a great way to test it. Agents aren't doing it, and they don't use they think it's a waste of time. They go through the listing presentation. Their seller gives them the authorization to post and coming soon, and then they don't do it. They're just hungry, like, I just want to make this thing live. I need a check. I just want to get it out there. Like, put it live for 10 days, 7 or 10 days, see what kind of interest you have, maybe consider adjusting the price on launch day so the days on market doesn't crush you. But that would require agents like planning and thinking about their business strategy for their
Well,
client.
see, yeah, you're gonna have a lot of that. The agents, the last 10 years they put it in the market, it sold. The creativity and the skill isn't there. A lot of these agents never been through something like we're going through. So that's the other thing too. The working.
Let's talk about some of the discounts. I've seen some pretty hefty discounts in Florida. I was talking to one of our viewers that had reached out and said that they're in Florida, Cape Coral, maybe I think it was, but they had said that the neighbor had put the house they were thinking about selling. The neighbor had put in the neighborhood, not their direct neighbor had put the house on the market. It had been sitting for like 3 or 4 months. They did a price reduction, did absolutely nothing at all. They talked to the people and they said, yep, we reduced it $50,000 and nothing. Like nobody started coming looking at it. And they're like, we don't know what to do, whether we take it off the market or whether we drop it again. But it looks like, if you look at a house that is in the $500,000 or $600,000 range, it's not uncommon to see $100,000 price cut.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, they think of like a median priced a home in an area. They think that's an indication on whether a particular house is being price reduced or not. And it's not. If you're seeing median prices rise in your market, it's because the more expensive or the wealthier people are the ones doing the buying. And all they're doing is driving that median price because they're getting that higher priced home. So it's skewing the whole marketplace. But tell everybody, what are you seeing on price cuts? Like how much?
Yeah. What I'm seeing, price cuts are I'd say anywhere from 10 to 25%, depending on where. Like Jacksonville here, like that article you read, they're saying Jacksonville's bullish. There's no way. Jacksonville's down 15%. I mean, everything. I'm here in Jacksonville. My office is right here, So that's not 100% accurate. I mean, things are very slow here. For me, I'm also seeing a lot of seller concessions. Buyers requesting seller concessions. A lot of it. But when I'm working with a buyer too, I'm going in. Now, there's certain neighborhoods like the one we just put the offer. It's a gated community on a golf course. People are buying there. It's not going to, it's not significantly hit. But in general, when we'll make an offer, we're going to offer, on a $400,000 or $500,000 house, I'm going to offer 50, 60, 70,000 under. And when we make the offer, I put in a note there. Listen, this is not to insult you. Here's why this offer is this. Boom, 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 boom. In the email, when I send the offer, I explain why. And in that way, if their seller, hey, please pass this along to your seller. We're not trying to insult you. At least give us a counter. But this is where we feel it's worth. We're not trying to be goofy. We're being serious here. Like this is where the market is. And I try to explain it to them to try to get some kind of communication going.
I'm glad you said that because not a lot of agents do that. And that's very good of you to do. Agents are supposed to do the following. If you're buying a home, they should be doing a comparative market analysis on that particular home. They should be providing it to you, right? These are the comparable sales in the subdivision. This is what I think you should offer on this home, right? Or less or more or whatever based on the current price of that home that they're interested in. People aren't doing that. And you take it one step further because you have to assume that the listing agent, you have to assume that they haven't had a conversation with their seller like, okay, well, I know you want to list it at this price, but it may be too high. I'm recommending dropping, listing here. But either way, whether the agent knows it or not, that's a good tool for the agent to take to the seller and say, look, this is why the guy is putting, his client's offer in at this price because of this. And it shows them. So that's great.
It helps them be able to open that conversation with them. And look,
everybody listening should be paying attention to that. Yeah.
And the bottom line is the seller wants to sell, the buyer wants to buy. They just need a fair deal for each of them. They really do. And that communication has to open up. If you just send an offer in 70,000 under and don't say anything, they may say, screw that. No. But at least if you're starting to,
you offend them.
This is why. Right.
You don't want to offend them and they get pissed off.
Yeah. Right. And as long as you don't offend them, you can disagree, but that's figuring it out, right? Make a deal.
Let's talk, and that's nice to know. It's good reference points. So, agents, if you're listening up, or buyers, if you're listening up, but sellers too. I mean, pay attention to what the market is doing because it is hitting mainstream media now that Florida is struggling. And we've been talking, just like Phil said, this has been expected. The professionals in the industry, believe me, they may not want to, they're still cheerleading a lot of them because they don't want to face the reality that their commission checks are flying out the window. But the fact of the matter is, professionals have been saying this, that this is not sustainable, that this market is not sustainable, not because Todd Sachs says it or Phil Simonetta says it. It's because we are watching the buyer behavior and the fact that they're broke and they have good jobs and they're still broke and they have a lot of debt and they have good jobs. So it's common sense semantics here. Phil, let's address the migration issue.
Yeah.
Because when in one of our last videos, you had said that people were flocking out of Florida, that the migration has stopped. A lot of the sources, mainstream media sources, are saying that the only reason that people aren't coming to Florida and that home prices are declining or people are leaving is because of hurricanes.
It's hurricane season. Listen, hurricanes been around since when? Since the beginning of time, right? So hurricanes would have chased people out of Florida 50 years ago. I mean, listen, people, come on, man. I mean, people, they'll pull things out of their hat just to sound good and think they're right. The bottom line is you got to look at statistics. You got to look at practicality. Florida, the cost of living in Florida is not practical anymore for retirees, right? It's not practical. Again, Florida has a lot of service industry. There's not really any jobs here, medical and service. And medical don't pay that well. Doctors are complaining, nurses complain, but you have the aging population here. They're all aging. And, it's an interesting time that things are shifting. I mean, politics, there's a lot going on. I mean, Florida, I'll never leave Florida. Florida's going to be my home state residency. I just got the license in Alabama. Getting Jersey. I'm going to get Pennsylvania. I have Tennessee, North Carolina. I do business there. But living, I'm never going to change my residency just because the freedom I have here and the politics. I don't want to say I agree with it because I'm not one way or the other. I think they're all criminals. Like I always tell you, no matter what party you're in, you vote for who you want to rob you. But for me, I'm talking about Second Amendment rights, different things. You have a lot of rights here that are challenged in different parts of the country, and I'm comfortable here, and I think that's why people are here. But a lot of these people are just they can't afford it. The average Joe can't afford what's coming at them. Look at inflation, man. Your grocery bill went up almost 100%. You got 2 kids and a wife, and you're working a job. She's working a job. Your daycare is as much as your mortgage. To watch your kids, you might as well stay home and not work if you're gonna. For a couple, one of the spouses might as well stay home because what they're paying for daycare, it's they're not even clearing that at work, or whatever it is. So it's just interesting times. And I don't think it's just Florida. It's everywhere. People are struggling, man.
Let's talk about the HOAs and condominium associations in Florida. Are they skyrocketing? Are the fees skyrocketing?
Yeah. Okay. So there's an HOA is an HOA. Now, there's different types. They're considered one HOA, but you have like subdivisions that have a very low HOA. It's very minimal, like 150, $200 a month. Some of them are $65 a year, $200 a year. They just maintain, they don't do the grass. It's just maintaining, making sure there isn't weird things going on in the neighborhood. It keeps it organized. Those HOAs are kind of staying the same. They don't really offer you anything. There's no pool. There's no amenity center, nothing like that. So those are okay. Right. But now when you have your HOAs where you have the amenity center, you have a pool, you have all the things going on, they're all up 50 to 200%, depending on what you're talking about. And then, some of these HOAs, they'll cover the roofs, they'll cover the insurance on the property. The insurances have tripled. Condos, forget about it. The condos, I've seen condos that were $400 that now are like $1,800. $1,400 up.
Fees, condo fees,
association, because they have to build
$1,800 a month.
A month, yeah, went from 400 to 1,800 to push up their reserves. And people can't afford it. And the thing is, you can't. What are you going to do? The condo will foreclose on you faster than the bank. You don't pay your condo fees. Watch what happens. It's a 30-day period. They'll do a condo foreclosure and take it from you. That's how it works. And
Well,
people
that's
can afford it.
we'll talk about that because I want to dive more into that here in a minute. About what happens if you refuse to pay. But one of the things that I say about Florida, and I've been to Florida a whole bunch of times. I mean, I love the vacation in Florida,
Yeah,
and especially when it's cold here in the Northeast.
yeah,
But Florida arrived after the automobile, and for those that don't understand what I mean by that, um, like where we are in Maryland, I mean, we're a very historic state. We had some of the first settlements here in Maryland, and it was horse and buggy.
yeah. Dirt roads.
So a lot of the infrastructure and the communities, especially in Baltimore, is the roads don't make sense. But so Florida was kind of laid out, and I know a lot of people will argue and say, "Well, the traffic's bad in Florida," but believe me, come to Maryland and see what rush hour's like. But one of the things that I want to talk about here is the beginning of sort of like the HOAs and the condos, because Florida experienced most of their massive population growth after World War II. So Florida's population more than doubled from 1950 to 1960, and then again, it more than doubled from 1970 to 1990. And homeowners associations started gaining traction as the planned communities were being built in kind of like the 40s and 50s, and some HOAs were very unstructured. But in Florida, as of I think it was October 1st of 1995, Florida started making the HOAs incorporate and record their governing documents. That became mandatory in 1995. And then the first condominium in Florida, the Condominium Act, which was in 1963. And I think prior to this, condominium associations and condo ownership, they weren't even formally recognized in Florida. And I guess with all of this said, Phil, and we'll talk about what happens when you refuse to pay your bill, but how hard is it to find a home in Florida that isn't governed by an HOA or a condominium association?
Listen, there's certain places you can't. I mean, it's almost everything. But it there's the majority of homes in Florida, the majority of communities are under some kind of association. Like I said, some of them, it's $200 a year. Some of them, in Jacksonville, St. Augustine, things in this area up here, Orange Park. But there's also some that are $1,600 a month. It just depends where you're at, what you're doing. The condo buildings are different. That's a condo association compared to a homeowners association. It's a different
But
parameter.
still almost impossible.
But it is. It's very hard. It's very hard. Yeah.
Where do you have to go if you want to buy a home without an association?
You're not going to go in any community. All the communities pretty much have them. You'd have to find a single family home, that was built older. You're not going to find any new home
prior to 1950.
I would say, well, no, because there's areas like in Boca. In Boca, there's older homes built, little community neighborhoods, but they weren't incorporated as HOAs. Like when you're going off US 1 between Palmetto and Glades, if you go up US 1, I don't know if you know the area, you make a left there, there's like little communities back there. There's no gate, there's no it's just you go in, it's just like a normal neighborhood. Those homes, I mean, they're $600,000-$700,000 now. But the thing is, those homes, they don't have HOAs or anything back there. Like those older Pompano Beach, those areas like down south. Up here in Jacksonville, there's a lot. I mean, you have a lot of older homes here built in the 20s and the 30s and the 40s and the 50s.
No HOA.
All over no, because they're
just
like
pre 1950s.
Normal streets, normal neighborhoods. Where my office is. On either side of me, I'm on the west side here of the river, and it's just neighborhoods, like when you grew up when you were a kid riding your bike. You know what I mean? It's just houses.
So the advice is, if you don't want somebody telling you what to do, look for a house that's pre 1950s and do what you want. And if you feel like painting the shutters purple, you can do it.
Yeah, but
what about land?
One thing about that before we go on, right around from my office here, there was a house, a developer knocked it down, built 2 single families, brand new, no HOA. Like right around the corner.
Yeah.
So you have that ability to do that.
But the lots originally were cut out. They're not
correct.
part of an HOA. Yeah, so you buy an old house, rip it down, build a new house, and now you have the most expensive house, which means your property value will plummet because the other ones around it will bring your property value down. The older, smaller, less new home will drag your price down. But if you're going to stay there forever, who cares?
I mean, I don't like
who
HOAs.
cares?
I mean, me personally,
Me either.
I can't stand it.
I won't live in one.
I personally would not buy. Neither would I.
Yeah.
That's hard.
All right. And which means I wouldn't buy a condo. If you buy a condo, you're absolutely in an HOA. Let me ask you this. Two things. First, how many subdivisions would you say you have, or is it common to have both a condo association within a HOA?
Yeah, I don't see that too often. I either see an HOA where it's single family homes, or I'll see a condo association is strictly a building with the condos in it.
So you don't have any planned unit developments where they're all part of an area and there's a path that goes through 5 or 6 different subdivisions or associations where you got to pay the HOA fee and the condo fee?
Now, what the ones that I've seen and I've worked with, you'll have the PUDs like that, and then there'll be apartments, there'll be townhouses, there'll be condos, and it'll be single families. But they'll each have their own HOA.
But there's no master that they buy into.
There are on some of them, but not many that I've seen. There are some masters, and they have like the sub ones, but I've seen those, but not that many.
How hard is it to find land to build on? So if somebody wanted to just build a house or put a manufactured home, are there many of those lots available?
Easy. There's lots everywhere, man. And now, the thing is,
out of HOAs, outside of HOAs,
outside of HOAs.
That's what I would do.
And the thing is that the problem here, though, is when you get to some of those lots, you got well and septic, because you're not going to get public utilities. So a lot of them.
Ooh, septic and sand. How's that work? You got to do a bat system.
No, you actually, it's above
sand
the
mound.
Yeah, you have the mound in the back of the grass.
Yeah. That's a pain in the ass. That you have to redo those more frequently. They don't last you 50 years like a conventional septic should. And that's and then you got to see the pipes sticking up, the vent pipes and all that crap, man.
I'll tell you, in Jacksonville, you have them everywhere, man. You have them in Jacksonville because it's so
sand mounds. What's the sand mound system for a 4-bedroom house cost?
Jeez, man, I'd probably say probably around 13 grand, 14.
30 grand?
That much? You think that much?
How much?
When I built the houses down in Port Jefferson, it cost me 13 grand when I built it, but I put a bunch in. I don't know what it costs like retail.
You put a best available technology. It's a bat drip system in here in Maryland. You could spend $35,000-$40,000 for a septic. And that's not conventional. It's not. It's a tank. It's not conventional. And it's got alarms on it. You have to be connected to a service where it's inspected every year. The best thing you can do in septic is have a conventional in-ground system, tanks with drain fields, and something like that. You could probably put in for $14,000 or $15,000.
Yeah, but that's what it cost me when I put them in down there.
Yeah. All right, let's go back to talk about the prices. You think Florida's overpriced?
Yeah, everything's overpriced, man. I mean, it goes back to the payment for the people, right? Like we talk about, people can afford that payment per month, and that's kind of where people are. And because the rates are up, the prices have to come down, right? To get that payment, people can pay X amount a month. The price is X. The rate got to be Y to get to that payment. And then if you see the rate shuffle, then the price shuffle. But I honestly, I think pricing, I mean, you're 25.
Forget the rates.
Yeah.
Forget the rates.
Yeah.
Is Florida overpriced?
Yeah, I think so. I truly think so.
I mean, you know how much a house costs to build?
I do.
And they're lying when they say that building materials are up. They're lying.
Yeah.
Lumber's down. Lumber's down.
They're using every excuse in the world to make more money. They're just making more money. That's what they're doing.
It's propaganda. What lumber was high during the pandemic, that's when it was high. Now it's come way back down.
Right, but they're never going to give it back to you. They're never going to bring it back down. They're going to keep making the money now. That's what they're doing.
Yeah, but if I were to go build a house today, I know what I can build a house for. There's no way I'm not buying an existing home.
No. I'm the same. I'm same way, man.
I'm building a house. If I'm building, and you know what? And a lot of people should wake up to the fact that it's not that hard to do. And a
Really
lot
not.
of states will allow you to pull your own permits.
Yeah.
You can, you have to call the permit office and ask them and say, look, I want to GC my own home construction. Can I pull a permit?
Yeah.
And if not, you get somebody to pull it for you.
Right.
Get your builder to pull a permit. But you can build a house. You can still be the GC.
You'll
You
save so
can
much
bid
money.
everything out. 7 major steps to building a house. That's what your draw schedule typically is going to be. If
And it'll be
somebody's
a better
interested
built
in that,
house. It'll be a
send me
better
an
built house.
email and I'll send you some of the steps and some of the connections that you would have to make to build your own house, because I think that's the viable option for a lot of people right now. That's the way to put your foot down and say, I'm not buying your outdated house, overpriced home for what you want for it. I'm going to buy a lot, which I could probably get a hell of a deal on right now in a scattered lot because people are eager to sell them. They need the cash. So if I were savvy home buyers with a little bit of connections, having some connections, I would try and go that route.
You got to think too, Todd. They're protected. Because if they're going to do a construction loan, the inspections are going to be done. The draws aren't going to be given unless it's built right anyway. You got to think about it.
You're hopefully going to get it inspected too.
Well, when you get a construction loan to do it, they're going to.
Right, that's right.
They're
going to inspect it too.
They're not going to let you move to the next stage until it's built properly. So,
right.
I mean, that's the other thing too.
They have to get their inspections from the county in order to get the draw. So if you go for your framing draw, you need your framing final that you can give to the bank to say here, and then they send out. It usually costs you a couple $100 for each draw because they actually have somebody come and look at it and say, yeah, there's a house here. There's 2 by
not only do you see it, not only do you see it, that the county or the town sees it, and then they send their inspector to see it. So it's like, so before you go to that next stage, you're protected when you're building something.
What do you tell buyers? Let's give some advice right now to buyers that want to buy a house in Florida. You already said you got to take a shot at the sellers. What other things should they be really paying attention to besides the price of the house?
But besides the price, I would say the condition. I would say, make all the houses I'm showing, it needs an AC. AC got a couple years left. Your water heater, see all your maintenance. Check your maintenance records. Check WDO inspections, termites. I mean, we're in Florida. It's termite paradise, right? And if somebody tells you a house that never had any problem with termites, it's impossible. You're in the middle of Florida. There's always some kind of termite thing somehow. It's just how you maintain it, right? I mean, you're in the middle of a swamp, But basically, my whole thing is take the shot at the deal and communicate with people. Buyers right now, if you don't have to buy, they're not buying unless they can get a fair deal. They're not overpaying. Even if they can, they don't. It's not 2 years ago, where that fear of missing out is gone, man. They're not worried about anything right now. It's so for me, it's, look at the property and even where the comps are and what you feel it's worth today, I'd go a little lower than that and hit them a little lower because the market.
Well, that's backward looking data, right?
And that's we're months behind. But if I show you today's data, like we always look at how many houses, what's going on the last 7 days, you got to, and that's what you show them. Like, look, I can appreciate you want this money, but here's why I'm here. And then that starts the conversation at least, right? Instead of pissing the people off, like we said. And then, a lot of times the agents don't even want to make the offer. Like when I'm sending offers, I can't do that. But listen, why are you even deciding? It's not, you're supposed to do your job, present the offer. That's what I tell them. I said, if you can't present the offer, I'll call the MLS and then I'll present the offer while you're watching me because they'll let me do that. They'll force you to let me do that. So I said, do you want to present it or you want me to present it? And then they tell me they present it. And they're supposed to sign off. They don't. They never send anything back. But what am I going to do? Complain to the wall?
Well, there's nothing and no law that I'm aware of that the buyer just can't go knock on the door at 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock in the evening and talk to the seller themselves. Now, look, I'm not advising my client to do that, but I can't control them. So if I say, the listing agent doesn't want, well, it would be unethical. We could have an ethics complaint against us, right? If we did it, if we went and knocked. I mean, I've had plenty of times through the years where I've had a listing agent's client say to me, like, I'm confused. Can you help me? Can you answer this question? And I'm like, yeah, I'm sure you are confused. I know who your listing agent is.
I've had situations where since this new NAR thing went in effect, I've had situations where a buyer would call me and they're under contract with another agent and they said, "We wanted to see the listing you have, but my agent's telling me it's not available." And they keep seeing it available on Zillow. Well, I'm like, "It's available." I mean, I don't know why they're telling you that, but I have no idea. I mean, maybe they're asking me compensation levels and I'm telling them and they don't want to show it. I don't know. Like, I've had people recently call me on stuff like that. I'm like, "Listen, if you're under contract with them, there's not really anything I can do, but you got to talk to
Well,
them."
Phil, we're seeing more and more people in our area where the seller is not offering compensation.
Yeah, it's happening here too.
And then what's happening is the listing agents playing games with compensation. They don't want to tell you how much their listing agreement says that they can offer. And I just came out with my new course. I tell you what, man, we're teaching people how to not even have an agent if they choose not to go that path, and what to say, how to negotiate with the listing agent, what to say where they have to tell you, and also how to go around that agent. If you're an unrepresented buyer,
You don't need the agent.
if you're not getting anywhere, you go knock on the door. I mean, there's no law that says that you can't do that.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
What
Exactly.
agents have to realize here is it's not about their ego and them. And I know what you're saying. You give the agent an offer. You say, "Yeah, I know your client wants 550,000, but my client's offering you 425." And the reason being, you've been sitting on the market for 6 months, but look at these comparable sales, and you're somebody's smoking bird seed. And here's the thing. And you say, "Now I want you to present this offer," and they say, "I'm not even presenting that offer." I'm like, "Really? Why is that?" "Because I know they're not going to take it." "Well, then do me a favor." Here's what I like to say to them all the time. "Do me a favor. Just send me an email so I can show my buyer
Yeah, yeah,
that
yeah.
you're not going to give that offer. You're not going to present that offer." I'll tell you something else. I'll go one step further. If a house is under contract
Mhm.
and your buyer wants to put an offer in on that house, they can.
Yeah, sure. But back
They
to the
can put an unsolicited, it's under contract. I don't care. I want to put an offer in. "Well, we're not taking any more offers." "Well, you better present it to your seller because my buyer wants to present one despite the fact of being under contract." And
Yeah,
that's one of the reasons why people are getting frustrated. Not all agents. There are a lot of good real estate agents out there, professionals. I know many of them.
yeah, me too.
And yeah, but that's why we have such a bad reputation in this industry, because you have all of these, and it doesn't matter how long they've been in the business. You got bad agents that have been in the business for
20 years.
50 years,
I know, I know. I know. I
right?
deal
I
with some
mean,
of them.
yeah, I mean, and so it doesn't matter how much, a tenure they have in the industry. Anyway, what else should they be looking out for? I mean, do you have foundation issues in Florida?
Not too much. Everything's on slabs here. Everything's slabs usually here because you can't go 3 feet. You're in water, so you go down. Even when you put a fence up, you hit water. Like when you put the, but
How
not
about
too.
jobs? Are you seeing people are struggling with jobs
Yeah,
that they're not?
I see.
Yeah.
A lot of gig workers, a lot of DoorDash people, a lot of people doing side gigs, a lot of people taking on second jobs. Service, a lot of service, restaurants, and as long as people travel and vacation, they have service jobs, right? I mean, that's really what it's always been. But I'll tell you,
Phil,
jobs in general, they're down. Everything's hurting, man.
tell me about you're talking about jobs, and I know you had said, and we had talked about this before in a previous podcast. You had said that a lot of restaurants have slowed down. Businesses are closing. The restaurant businesses closing their doors. That you said even Disney. I even saw afterwards where Disney
Disney's
had a
hurting, man.
big round of layoffs. Yeah.
Yep.
Um, do you still see that? Has that continued
Yeah.
to
What I'm
progress?
seeing, yeah, yeah, that's a great question, man. What I'm seeing is the restaurants and the service businesses that aren't run properly, that aren't run tightly, where there's a lot of waste, they're like diving into the ground. But the businesses that are run properly, managed properly, inventoried properly, operated properly, they're making money. That
Well,
they're
how
just tight.
how many times you go in a restaurant, you go up and the hostess is like this?
Yeah, yeah. Listen, I own bars and
I mean,
restaurants.
they're looking on their phone. You're standing there like,
Yeah, yeah,
hello.
yeah. As you know, I just bought another bar. So my bartenders, my employees, phones are not allowed while they're working. Now, if they have kids they want to check on in the back, they can go back into the back area and they can check their phone. If there's an emergency or something, because sometimes people have kids at home and stuff like that. But if I see them when they're gone, if that comes out of their pocket behind the bar or out in the restaurant, but that's what I'm talking about. Service. Somebody's going to go in there and pay you $85 for a steak dinner, and the waiter's going to be on his phone like this, it's crazy, dude. And you'll see that now down in Orlando, Disney, like you'll see down there chains. It's all chain restaurants. The chain restaurants are they've always not made tons of money. They're just volume, right? You sell cheeseburger, you make $3 a cheeseburger, you sell 1 million of them a day throughout the country, you made $3 million, right? You can do that. But when you're an independent bar or restaurant, the minute you start losing money, all your costs are up. The insurance for the bar business is up. The insurance, the payroll taxes, you have the employees, all the salaries. Food cost is up almost 60%. I mean, for my pizza business, the flour's up over 80%. The tomatoes are up over 75%. The cheese went up $4 a pound. So
how much is cheese a pound? Out of $4 doesn't mean anything to me.
Yeah.
What was it? What was
now, it? It was about $3.25 a pound. Now it's almost $6.50 a pound. The stuff that I
significant. Yeah. That's big time.
And a quarter pound goes on it. Like the Neapolitan pizzas, quarter pound of cheese goes on that. So you're starting to eat into profits, eat into expense. Expenses are going up. Electric's going up. The wood I use for the wood stove, that just went up. I get 2 pallets a month. It went up over $200 a month on me just on the wood. So I mean, that's
you can't burn palm trees, can you?
Literally burning money, dude. Burning money.
You got to import trees from Maryland to burn your wood burning.
Yeah,
I'll bring you some. I'll bring you some. I love fires. I love firewood. Yeah.
So that whole thing, like now, if you're running a business tight, and you have the right employees and the right environment, people want to come. They're still going to spend money, but they're spending less right off the bat. But it's costing you more to put it on the table. Right. So you're losing money. The waiter's not losing the money. The electric company's not losing the money. Your profit's getting cut. Right. What you're making is getting cut every time something goes up, unless you raise your price. How much can you keep raising your prices? How much are people going to pay for a pizza? Right. How much are people going to pay for a steak dinner? You can only raise it so much. So when you have to start cutting things, the only thing you can cut, you can't cut the product. You can't cut the materials. You can't cut the employees. All you can cut is the profit. You're cutting what you put in your pocket, and your margin isn't that high anyway in a restaurant business. You're not. People think it's so great to have a bar and a restaurant. They don't know what goes on behind the scenes. I was just talking to the guy that I bought the bar from, which is going to be announced very shortly. We haven't announced it yet. We were talking about that. He has a catering hall. He has another restaurant. He owns multiple real estate buildings. Guy's been in the real estate business for a long time, and we were talking about it. Like, when you're out there talking to everybody, it's your bar, it's your restaurant, people, they love you to come in. They think, oh yeah, I want to own a bar too. This is great. They don't know what it's like when you walk behind the wall and you're running the bar. Every corner you got to cut, buying the food. There's a lot.
That's business. That's business in general, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, yeah. But the bar's tough. Yeah. But it's good. It's good business. But it's but I don't know, man. In general, these companies got to tighten up, and the service. I mean, that's the only thing that's going to save them.
Yeah.
It's hard. It's hard right now for everybody.
All right, my friend. Well, it's always good to talk with you, Phil, and we appreciate you coming on and giving us information on Florida, and all your information is in the show notes. I know you get a lot of inquiries from us, and even if you're an agent and you're in Florida and you want somebody to learn the industry, give Phil a call.
Yeah, that's one of the things, man. That's one of the things I like to do is guide people and help them become better. Really is. And it's hard to find people who want to learn. It really is. They're kind of set in their ways, So.
All right, man. Well, we'll talk soon.
Yeah. Good to see you, man. Thanks for having me.
Good to see you. Thanks so much for watching. If you like the video, you can let us know by smashing that thumbs up. And if you haven't already subscribed to our channel, please consider doing so now. Hit that alert bell. You'll know every time we upload content just like this. Keep those comments and questions coming. And one of the biggest compliments you can do for us all here at Sachs Realty is to share our channel and this video with your family and friends. This will help us to continue to build this amazing online community with viewers just like yourself. See you next time. Sachs Realty, Maryland broker number 607720, office number 443-318-4514, equal housing opportunity.